Hello, all. Welcome back. Now, for a second session with us is Viplav. Dr. Viplav is a physiotherapist, is NPT from Leeds Bucket University in UK, and uh, he's also the fitness director at Racket Academy. So he should be here. Good afternoon, sir. Welcome
Very
back.
good afternoon, sir. Yes, very nice to catch up again. Good
Yes, sir.
afternoon to all the viewers.
Yeah, it was really tough, trying to find the right topic to discuss, I guess,
Yes, yeah,
which are most important these days, which are missing, and which we would love to hear from you because you worked on quite a lot of players. Again, just to introduce Dr. Viplav. Dr. Viplav is MPT from the Leeds Bucket University in UK, and he worked with Gopichand Academy on quite a lot of players, remarkable players with remarkable success on Saina Nehwal, Kashyap, Sindhu, and now he is the fitness director for Ahmedabad Racket Academy. Right. So, and just like we had very short time in the last session, we just had to introduce. It was just an introduction for physiotherapy and the fitness. But today we are going to our major topic was dealing with injuries and its impact on players, coaches, and parents.
yeah. I think that is one of the most important thing which all the players have problem, particularly in India. All over the world, it's like that. But dealing with injuries is something which is a is something which has to be accepted in the right way and dealt in the right way. So I thought, maybe this would be a very apt topic at the moment. I will
Right,
tell you
sir.
why during the course of the discussion why it will be a apt topic.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, so first let's start with the injuries. You want to start with injuries first?
Yeah.
The
Let's
major
let's.
injuries we have usually.
Yeah, I think let us relate this to what we are going through right now.
Right.
The lockdown phase. So what happens is when a lot of people are kind of inactive, like we are at the moment, what
Yes, sir.
happens is they tend to change, like they are broken from the regular routine what they had.
Right.
So it is all accompanied by also the kind of habits we develop during this phase, particularly the nutrition,
Right, sir.
and the other one is the our sleeping patterns. I am sure
Right.
most of them, may have broken their routines, what they used to do. Their eating
Yeah.
habits may have changed. Their sleeping patterns may have changed. So what happens is all this is going to have a very cumulative effect when they get back on the court after the lockdown is lifted off. Okay. So
Right.
how I will try and explain what happens is because you tend to kind of because you're inactive and you are adding on calories every day, and most of the times what happens is the ideal brains usually uh, craves for something which is not healthy, and that is science. Basically it is because of the
Right.
hormones which are produced in the brain, and the urge to eat something, particularly the sweet tooth is activated when you are doing nothing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so I'm sure a lot of people have been, I mean, like, they are going through this phase. Uh, like, also, what happens is when I talk about the sleeping patterns, because we have nothing to do, we may choose to watch a movie in the night, which might go until late night.
Right.
Maybe we like a family, we might end up playing some board games or something like that. So
Right.
we have a chat, or something or the other. There is, we have so many apps these days on the phones. We have Netflix and all those things. So we tend
Right.
to watch movies and programs and all those things. So it goes on, you wake up late in the morning. So what happens is the whole rhythm is broken. The body cycle is completely broken and it is adapted to something which is new.
Right.
And because we have already been through a 21 days phase of lockdown, any habit to get used to the body take 21 days. So now the body is used to this kind of a routine. So what happens is when you go back after the lockdown is call it, if everything goes well and 3rd of May, the lockdown is lifted and we all go back to our work again.
Right.
You are going with added pounds in your body. Naturally, you are going to put on weight. Number one.
Right.
The muscles and joints have lost their memory, their functional memory. They, if you keep them training every day, they know what they have to do. But if they are sitting idle, they think we have no job to do. So they kind of relax. So they forget what has happened.
Right.
So the muscle memory and the joint memory is lost.
Okay.
The movement patterns are lost. So many things have changed. So when you get back there, you are at a high risk of injury. So what happens is we might go and start playing, naturally as coaches and as trainers, we all say because we all have come back from a dormant phase into an active phase. Let's start it slow, but because we do not know what is slow, what is fast, how to moderate the program. So we might plan something like really easy for them, but what happens is, as kids, they have that thing to, come on, let's go, let's play some points, let's do something. So in the event, they end up doing something, or the movement patterns become so vigorous, or whatever it may be, the body does not accept it. So that ends up into potential injuries.
Okay.
So what usually happens is most of the muscle tears and pulls happens at this phase.
Right.
Okay. Because the muscles have become stiff, they are not in a position to take the load and all those things. So this is how it happens. So what happens is they might be thinking, I have been under rest. My body has been very I haven't done anything. I have come and I started playing, and now suddenly I have an injury. What's going on? So I don't understand. So this is what usually happens. And dealing with this injury, dealing with the injury, when I say not when you have an injury, you have to deal with not having the injury. Okay.
Right.
So how you take care of yourself during this phase is very, very important. Particularly the players, they need to be smart. They need to have good choices. They have to make sure that, they are eating well, sleeping well, they're recovering well. Although they are not active, they still need to work on these lines. So it becomes difficult to what do you say, when you get back, and God forbid it shouldn't happen, but if any of the player ends up having an injury, already they have lost so much time because of this the lockdown thing, and also they are losing some more time because their body has once the injury is there, the body takes more time to recover because it hasn't been active. The recovery time for an active person is much lesser than a person who is not active.
Okay.
So so this is what happens. So dealing with these injuries is very important. Obviously, it has a great deal of impact on the player first. Obviously, then the parents and the coaches. So it becomes very important to deal with such injuries. So I think the players have to be very careful here.
Right. So just in the due course, that, like, for example, player A is gone through a injury, right? So basically it impacts the parents first, as well as the coach.
I believe it impacts the player first.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It impacts the player. I mean, I'm talking about off court, not on court. It's the player for sure. But then off court, because off late, a lot of these instances happen that parents. What we went through, we just had a player who came from another academy here. And obviously, as you know, the thing we teach is how to slide and play on a clay court. So, so what
Yes.
happened? This kid was sliding, and she started to slide initially. But then what happened is, because she's been playing for the last 8 years, and she was not taught how to slide, and she started sliding, and in that span, because she's not used to, and she was playing a match, and she twisted. She actually had a break, and then she couldn't pivot on her toes, and the knee was stuck.
What did she have? Knee?
And
Okay, knee. Okay.
ACL. ACL.
ACL tear? Yes, sure. Yes. So this is a very classical mechanism of injury for ACL. So
Right.
the foot is fixed and the knee turns inside and
Right.
towards, inside and down. So this is where the ACL hurts. Yes.
Right.
In relation to what you just said, I think, like you mentioned, she wasn't taught the right technique of sliding, or she never slided before,
Right.
and she started doing it now. Again, this is something which is called as an unaccustomed activity. Okay.
Right.
So the player was not accustomed to doing those slides.
Right.
And the surface she must have played before in another academy or another place on another court. And the surface when it comes to Advantage Academy or any other academy for that matter, it changes. Okay.
Right.
So what should have been done or what can be done now is, like, she has an injury now, so I'm not sure if she's undergone a surgery or not.
She's
but,
gone through a surgery, and she's back playing tennis now. But then it was.
Okay.
But the problem there was, she had to go. Everything was here for her as a player.
Yeah.
Everything was here. She was so worried that she started liking the game now. Before I don't know how it was, but then after she started sliding, now she was more confident on, sir, I want to slide. I love sliding now, and that is when this happened. But still, again, she's back with slide and all that stuff. But she went through almost 1 year of how should I tell you? She come back, and there was a problem with the parent, because they were not ready for all this. I think one major thing, what I just sorry for taking your time, sir, but what I thought was, every tennis player these days, whoever is playing, even talent series and championship series, I think it's very important for the parents to have have their kids insured, because that insurance, so much of the burden was covered, because we only talk about the surgery. But if you're going through that rehab, even that is, if it is
the added cost, yes.
Yeah, that's the added cost. And if you have insurance, I think that will cut down quite a lot of stuff.
Yes, it definitely will. And for what it is like, the amount of time she has lost may have impacted her more than the injury itself.
Right.
Okay, so it's like been a 1 year since she was injured, and she's now back and playing. That's good. But I am 100% sure, the very first moment a player has an injury,
right,
what runs through their mind is very, very unpredictable. We never know.
Right.
Everybody has their own psychology. So what happens is, most of the times, I think the biggest game changer here for any player is the acceptance of the injury.
Right.
Okay. When they are injured, like ACL tear is a very major injury. Minimum time lost in an ACL tear is about 6 months. For at a pro level.
Right.
But there are cases, there are instances where people could have come back like 3-4 months during in the due course. But everybody has their own way of doing the rehab programs and back to game protocols, and they have their own way of dealing with injuries. But the biggest game changer is the acceptance. Like I said, the player has to accept that they are injured, number one. Right. Number two, the parents have to accept that, yes, their child is injured.
Yeah.
Number three, the coach and the support staff have to accept that, yes, the player has been injured. Okay. Most of the times, let us not talk about the major injuries, but
Right.
The smaller injuries, like something like ankle sprain, a grade 1 ankle sprain.
Right.
The player may have hurt himself. What happens is the player will not be willing to tell the parent or the coach that he has twisted his ankle, he's
Right.
rolled over his ankle.
Right.
Could be because if the player says, "Mom or Dad, I rolled my ankle while I was playing and it's paining a little bit," so what happens is the parent might say, because the love for the child, right? Oh, my son is hurt, my daughter is hurt. Okay, beta, you don't go today. Let's take rest for 2 or 3 days.
Right.
That time 2 or 3 days is unacceptable. Any player would not accept,
Right.
right? So they
Yeah.
hide that injury. Let us call a grade 2 ankle tear or a muscle pull. Call it a muscle pull, where
Right.
the player has difficulty in walking and moving around and all those things. So there it is very obvious the person is struggling to walk or struggling to run or whatever it may be. So
Right.
there, some are tough, they will grind through it. Some
Right.
are not that tough, so they have to kind of go through the program, like the injury rehab program or something. No, it's not like every injury has to be dealt in the same exact way, the textbook way of doing things. But some players are very tough. Like I know people who have rolled their ankles in the morning and then they come and play in the afternoon session. All
Right.
they do is they ice their ankles. It's all the mindset, like they do their icing, they do their crepe bandage, and they come and play the session and they are fine. It will be swollen for 3 or 4 days, then they are absolutely fine. It's the body type also counts, how the body accepts the injury. Of course, you have a complete tear of a ligament, then obviously you can't do anything for next 3 weeks. But
Yes, sir.
the first point is acceptance. Then second thing I would say is the time.
Right.
Managing the time in the sense of two ways. Number one, how much time does it take for me to get back onto the court? We're talking in terms of tennis.
Right.
How much time does it take to, say, for example, a minor injury, anywhere from say 2 to 3 days to a week. Okay.
Right. Right.
And a little higher grade of injuries will take about 2 to 3 weeks. So this phase, how people are going to, or the players are going to manage their time. If they have lost about 2 to 3 days, they need to
Right.
make sure that they kind of keep themselves active, not inactive, but active in the sense of active rest, not hurt, not loading the part or not giving extra stress on the injured part,
Right.
but managing that injury as prescribed by the doctor or the physio.
Right.
But at the same time, the most important thing is to maintain their fitness levels. What they have to do is they have to keep themselves active by doing some or the other kind of fitness, whether it is at home, whether it is going to the gym. If you are able to put weight on the leg, say for example, if you have an ankle injury, so if you're able to put weight on the leg, yes, you can. There is no reason why you shouldn't be putting weight when you can actually put weight with a little bit of pain. Okay,
Right.
because our body, like I said, is designed to move, so it has to move.
Right.
Right. So
Good.
so the time, managing the time. The other thing is how you manage your time, right? If you have a break of 3 weeks, say for example, you had a grade 2 muscle tear and you have to take a break of 3 weeks. So what are you going to do? So you can't be sitting at home and become a couch potato.
Right.
Okay. So these 3 weeks have to be planned properly. If the player is not allowed to play for the first 1 week, yes, the player is not playing, but he can go to the academy, he can go to the gym, he can go to the pool for his rehab, he can go for a walk or a jog if allowed, based on what the grade of injury is, what it is.
Right.
And the most important thing, I would like to stress these points again and again. I keep repeating this: nutrition, hydration is very, very important for any
Correct.
injury.
Correct.
Because what you eat and drink during this phase makes a lot of difference on how it affects or impacts your body when you go back again playing in full-fledged.
Correct.
So
Nutrition won't patch up that injury as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, say for somebody's bruised their knee, like, they fell down while playing and they have scraped the first, second layer of the skin is gone. The wound has to heal, and there will be definitely swelling and all those things. So the wound has to heal. So how eating makes a difference? You got to eat a lot of vitamin C, which is
Right.
an anti-inflammatory. Okay, so it promotes healing. Again, you got to eat a lot of antioxidants, where it promotes healing, like an apple, like a
Right.
kiwi. These are all antioxidants. Okay,
Right.
so
Right.
and also you got to take a lot of proteinaceous food, because protein helps in muscular healing, all these
Right.
things. So this has to be managed well. And say for example, the first 1 week you're not allowed to play. A week after the review, the doctor or the physio says, yes, you can go and start slow. What is start slow is the first question they need to ask.
Right.
Okay, because
Right.
when the physio or the doctor says go, you can go and start slow, you can play for half an hour.
Mm.
Good, but what should I do in that half an hour
Right.
is the question they need to put forward. Because
Okay.
if my physio is telling me, okay, go and play for half an hour, I go there and do exactly the same thing what I was trying to do before.
Right.
my
Right.
my muscle which is injured is not going to do it, not going to take it.
Right.
Okay, so a proper warm up has to be done, a proper conditioning has to be done, a proper stretching has to be done, and then start playing, go through the motions, kind of go slow and steady. See how, the player is the right judge.
Correct.
He knows exactly what is happening, because as a coach you might be giving him some, you might be doing a dead ball drill with him, go hit forehand. Fine, you are
Right.
doing the forehand, you're doing open stance, okay, hit. But if after 10 or 15 balls, or say half a bucket of balls, the player starts to feel that there is a little bit of niggle which is coming back, that's the stop point.
Right. Okay.
So that's where he needs to stop. Give it a little bit of rest. Give it a little bit of rest. See how it goes. If the niggle goes down, the pain goes back to zero. Yes, give a 5 minutes break and you can start again and go on for like half an hour in breaks. Okay, with breaks, proper breaks.
Right, sir.
But what happens here is, most of the times I again raise my fingers towards the players. What happens is they ignore this point.
True.
They
True.
ignore this.
Yes.
अरे चलो acceptable pain है ना करो, let's continue, let's continue,
Right.
let's continue, let's
Right.
continue. What they are not understanding is they are actually breaking the healing process which is happening inside. So you're not
Right.
allowing the muscle or the tissue to heal. So what's
Right.
happening is you are causing more and more injuries. So your recovery time is increasing. Which should have recovered in 3 days is becoming 5 days. Which should have been recovered in like 7 days is becoming 10 days.
Right. Right.
So start slow is that's where that's where it counts. And
Right.
after that, say for example, another 1 week later, you go and say, the doctor says, okay, you can play for an hour and a half. See how it goes. If you have pain, you stop. Yes,
Yeah.
if you have pain, you stop, is the instruction given to you. If you have
Right.
pain, you stop.
Right.
As simple as that, right?
Right.
And most of the times what happens is, again, like I said, it's the same thing. Chota mota pain, chalo chalta hai. That chalta hai type attitude has to change. That mindset has to change, because at a pro level, chalta hai doesn't work.
Right.
If you're looking at, let's do an hour of tennis. Let's go play and do some fitness and all those things. Yes, good.
Right.
You did hour of tennis, absolutely no problem. You were fine. There was no symptoms recurring. You did your conditioning, you did your stretching, you did your recovery, you did everything. Naturally, you are going to come back to the game ASAP. Like,
Yeah.
which could have taken 3 weeks will take only 2 weeks, just because you
Right.
managed it very well. It should be
Right.
managed, not mismanaged.
Right. Right.
So that's how you deal with time. So first thing is acceptance, second thing is time.
Right.
And
Right.
the link between these two things is, the most important word is patience.
Patient. Correct.
Who loses
Yeah.
the patience first? It's not the player. It is the parents and the coaches.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Because player knows he is having a problem, and he is going through the sequence of instructions given to him. He's doing the same thing. Most of the times, 90% of the players are sincere enough to follow what instructions have been given to them. There are a 10% people who are, you can call them tough guys who are mentally tough, they
Right.
just do it. But the patience, where I think it is the parents and the coaches needs to have patience. Most important thing is you got to believe what the player is saying to you.
Right.
If the player comes and tells you, I am having a 10% pain still left in my injury. Hey, but you are walking properly, you are able to jog, you are able to run also, you are
Right.
playing so well. So what's wrong? Why are you not sprinting? Yeah, that's
Right.
because he has that 10% left.
Yeah.
You have to
Yeah.
believe. You have to believe that.
Somewhere they might have that pinch, like that small niggle might be there. Yes, true.
So, that is what is stopping them. Second thing is the block which they have developed. Agar if I do it again, what if I injure it again?
Right.
So that mental block will be that 90% recovery happens. That is 100% recovery. Actually, the last 10%, what it is mental block. For that mental block to go, it will take a little bit of time, and gradually the load has to be increased. And that is the job of the conditioning coach or the strength and conditioning, the fitness trainer, what we call.
Right.
So they have to the player is well conditioned to accept the load. So the right way of doing things and the right protocols to follow. So I think that the acceptance, the patience, and the time is what counts in dealing with an injury. That's more with the sports community.
Right. Right, sir. Right. Right. And the same thing, just like we were talking about, these injuries. What are the regular injuries? These players have been going through, and what are the time frames for it?
Particularly tennis, most of the times the injuries, I can say, is most of the times it is change of mechanics.
Sir.
The coach changes a little bit of technique,
Right.
okay, which the muscles and the joints were not used to before. So what happens is that's where the muscle starts to produce symptoms. But again, we need to be smart. Any pain which lasts from 0 to 72 hours
Right.
is not an injury.
Right.
It's not an injury. It's just that the muscle has taken so much time to accept what load has been given.
Right.
Anything which we don't like, naturally we tend to show it in a negative form, and a negative projection of our body is nothing but pain.
Right.
Okay, so I usually consider anything from 0 to 7. That is like 0 to 3 days. A pain is there. We have to watch for up to 72 hours how it is behaving. If it is a minor injury, usually it disappears after 72 hours.
Right.
And most of the times it is because of change in biomechanics, whether it is technique or the load or whatever it may be. Like the coach might change the grip during the serve or change the grip for the top spin. Most of the times I get players, the younger players who come with pain in the elbow. The first question I ask is, did your coach change any technique?
Right.
Or did you change a racket? If you change the equipment also, it has that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if the coach changes it, what happens is the top spin is the most common cause for a tennis elbow.
Right.
People don't understand why that pain is coming, but it is because you are using a lot of pronation movement.
Right.
So when you do a lot of pronation movement, your forearm extensors are strained, overstrained. They are all small muscles. They are rodent muscles. They are like small rats inside under the skin.
Right.
So their fatigability is very high. That means they get fatigued very fast. And when the muscle gets fatigued fast, it becomes stiff. When it becomes stiff, the muscle fibers are not moving or flexible. And when you are still continuing the movement, a stiff muscle, imagine a stiff band, you are trying to move. What happens? It will snap.
Right.
Okay. The same thing happens with the muscle fibers inside in a very microscopic level, not that you can visibly see that there is a tear, but at a very microscopic level the muscle tears, and that's when it gives you that pain. So injury which I see is a tennis elbow. Change of surface is one of the causes for a lot of ankle and knee injuries. People
Yes,
who
yes.
change
Good.
surface, like, most of the times what happens is changing the academies. Somebody who was playing on the hard courts goes to another academy, and he starts playing on the clay court. You will see that they have issues with the hamstring pulls, adductor pulls,
Correct.
and hip pains, back pains. These are the most common injuries.
Right.
The other common injury is the back pain. Back
Right.
pain because they do not the major culprit here for most of the injuries is lack of flexibility. Again, there is a big debate, like, really, does flexibility is the cause of injury? But yeah, to a certain extent I believe it is. Like, if your muscles and joints are made to move, every joint has a range of motion. And
Right.
because if your muscles are stiff and they are not allowing you to go through that full range of motion, naturally your muscles have to work more hard. So
Correct.
when they have to work more hard, they are being taxed. When they are being taxed, they give up. Basically, that giving up is nothing but pain.
Right. Right.
Okay,
Right.
so the other common injury which I see is a back pain. Back pain usually happens most of the time is because they try to generate more force in rotation when they are hitting a forehand or a backhand.
Right.
Again, if the coach changes a technique, if a private session is taken because some technical correction has to be done in terms of rotation during a forehand, rotation during a backhand, or a serve technique is changed where the serve technique is changed, a lot of service practices being done, so there is a lot of hyperextension in the back. So that is one of the causes for no, I won't call it injury, but again, yeah, injury, yes. But because there is a lot of rotational movement involved, from the mid back to lower back to the hips, which is the chain of movement for tennis players. So if that chain is defective, if it is not flexible enough, if it is not strong enough, like, that's when the injuries happen. And most of the times the injury is because of the imbalance of the muscles. One group of muscles are strong, the other group of muscles are weak, and most of the times it is the back muscles which are weak, particularly in back and core muscles. Particularly in the Indian community, I see that all the players who, like, most of the players whom I have come across, they have stiff backs, weak backs, and weak core. So all the power and force which you generate while hitting the ball comes from the core. The core is the most important part of the body, which produce, like, the first point of force is generated from the core, and then it transfers through the chain of muscles, which goes through the that force goes through the racket and hits the ball.
Right.
So if this muscular imbalance is not addressed, the injury will never, will keep repeating. We, as a coach, you may surely have come across kids, who come back with recurrent injuries. They have a history of back injury. They are fine for
Right.
3 months. They come back again with an injury. Again 3 months, they are fine.
Right.
Again they come back with an injury. So that is because they are not working on the balance of the muscles. The balance of the muscles have to be worked.
Right.
The other injuries are shoulder injuries. Again, shoulder injury is something which is very, very important. Most commonly, it is because of the stiff posterior capsule of the shoulder. A lot of people talk about rotator cuff, but I do not give rotator cuff the credit for causing the injury. Because of the shoulder, range of motion is compromised deep inside the shoulder. Every joint, when the joint sits in the socket, the whole joint is covered with a capsule. It is encapsulated inside the joint is encapsulated inside a fibrous tissue. So this, and again, particularly in tennis players or racket sports, it is the back side of the capsule which becomes tight.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
So that is called the posterior capsule. So if you see a lot of players, I'm not sure if the viewers are able to watch the action, but I will try. When you do this, the internal rotation with pronation of the forearm, the
Right.
movement is happening. The shoulder is moving forwards like this.
Right.
And the posterior part of the shoulder, the capsule, is tight. So it is not allowing you to rotate completely through the range of motion. So when it is not doing that, what happens is the muscles will take over the load. because they
Right.
have to complete that. The serve has to complete, or the
Right.
overhead shot has to complete. So what happens is the muscles, when they are overloaded and they have to exert that force, because the range of motion is compromised, they have to exert more force, that when the
Right.
fibers give up. And
Right.
that's the major cause of the rotator cuff injuries, why we what we call. So it's not the
Right.
muscles per se, it is actually the culprit is the shoulder joint. So
Right.
uh,
Yeah, most of
in
them
a
said, because of late, quite a lot of players have been, I mean, especially tennis players in India have been complaining of, rotator cuff problems.
Yes,
Be it serve, be it,
I suggest to the coaches and fitness trainers and other physios, whoever are watching or who are working with the
right,
players,
right,
to if any player comes to you, or even if you're assessing the player, or you want to do some serves or something like that, a lot of serves.
right,
Please check the range of motion on both the sides. Compare it between the right and the left. I mean, the right and the
right,
left together. You have
yeah,
to check.
right,
Naturally, their dominant hand, whichever they use, is going to be compromised. There will be less range of motion because of the stiff capsule.
right,
So it becomes a physio and the trainer's job to make sure that they are giving a good stretching program, especially the mobility program, where
right,
the joint becomes more flexible. It goes through the range of motion, if not 100%,
right,
at least 90%. They have to achieve the range of motion.
right,
So this is what needs to be done, particularly, like, make sure that you are checking the range of motion for internal rotation. This is the internal
right,
rotation movement.
right, right,
And again, somebody is mentioning about the GIRD. So
yeah,
GIRD, yes, that is again one of the most important thing which needs to be addressed. Internal rotation defect. Okay.
yeah,
So the other thing which I think is the other small, uh, again, dislocations and fractures is very very rare in like, in tennis. I mean, yes, there is. It's not that they don't have, like, somebody has a fall, they die or something like that, and they might dislocate the shoulder. But
right,
because of tennis, nobody dislocates the shoulder. I mean, I've never heard of a
right,
case, somebody hits a forehand and their shoulder pops out.
right,
That doesn't
right.
happen. Yeah. So the again
Internal rotation.
the what else? Yeah, the ankle sprains again is something which is, it is again related to surface.
Right,
Change of shoes. Somebody, we all know, a lot of people slide on the hard courts too,
right,
right? And what happens is, because they slide, the sole wears off. Number one. Number two, they end up changing shoes every, say, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, maybe.
yeah,
And when they change the new shoe, their body is still used to sliding, but the grip is new, the sole is new.
absolutely,
So the grip will not allow you to slide as much what you were doing before.
right,
So that's where the foot gets stuck and the ankle rolls. That's where the usually the ankle injuries happen. And most of the times it happens in the clay court. Yes, if they cannot slide properly.
right,
But again, uh, ankle injuries are also common.
right,
Yeah, I mean, I think hip injuries is something which is important.
yeah,
Most of the players, not only in India, all over the world, and I'm sure a lot of people are working on this. The hip mobility. Hip mobility is a very very big thing in sports today,
right,
because a lot of research and the other like, factors which involve are the hip mobility. If it is compromised, the force production is not good enough. So a lot
right,
of it's exactly similar to the shoulder internal rotation I was talking about.
right,
So if you see, the hip mobility also has to be done, um, uh, at least as a part of the warm up, the hip and shoulder mobility, which I suggest to the players and the
right,
coaches. And also, most of the times what happens is, we have been we have been, or particularly the education system in India, whether it is sports or studies, I
Right.
think it is um, more of like, you have to do this to get this.
Right.
Okay. Thinking
Yes.
out of the box is probably very less. Only a few smart people can do it. Um, the uh, warm up routines have to be changed every day. It cannot be the same thing. Like, you can see people coming and chalo 5 laps running. Number one,
Right.
why are you running?
Right.
My first question is, why are you running?
Yeah.
Is your body prepared to run first?
Right.
It's not that I am a genius in what I'm doing right now, but I learned it through so many years of experience.
Right.
Even I used to, at a point, there used to be a set pattern of warm up exercises which used to be done. 5 round running karo, then thoda movement karo, do some hip mobility. Hip
Right.
mobility in the sense, hold on to the net pole and swing your legs across your body. Yes, that
Right.
is correct. You have to do that.
Right.
But uh, I think times have changed. A lot of research has been done. A lot of the techniques, the technology has improved. The world is advancing towards more functional type of doing things.
Correct, sir. Correct.
So I think the trainers and physios, even the coaches, like, if you do not have a trainer or a physio at the academy, the coaches, if they are doing it, please try to break the routine every day.
Right.
Work more on, first thing is, I will just go through, I will just try and give you a brief how a good warm up can be done. The first thing you can include is activation of the muscles. If you go on YouTube, there are a lot of exercises you can
Right.
see.
Yeah.
So first thing is, you need to activate, you need to wake them up. What happens early in the morning? You wake up, right, to do something.
Right.
You just don't jump off your bed and sit on the computer and start working. You start, and there is a process. So you have to
Right.
wake up. Basically, they have to wake up.
Right.
So there is a lot of activation exercises which you can find on the YouTube. So whatever I'm speaking right now will be available on YouTube. So there is a lot of stuff on the internet these days. So first thing is activation. Then you need to work on mobility,
Right.
particularly the hip, back, and shoulder. This helps to kind of, even deep inside the joints, they have to kind of, start and then work on the mobility. Then go for releasing. You have to soothe and calm the muscles down. The stiff muscles, they will be like, very stiff. So
Right.
the best thing is, do some foam rolling.
Right.
Again, a lot of people will be surprised and like, really, foam rolling in the warm up? Yes, foam rolling can be done in the warm up.
Right.
Foam rolling, which kind of, relaxes and releases your muscles. And then after that, you do a static stretching. That means you stretch those muscles which were stiff.
Right.
Again, the question will be like, really static stretching before the warm up session? Yes, you can do static stretching. There is no harm in doing a static stretching. And then start doing your dynamics, like the high knees, the back kicks, the sideways, the crossovers, the cariokas, and the regular routine, whatever. And after that, you have to finish with dynamic movements. Dynamic movements, like, you should do something like a jump, a kangaroo jumps,
Right.
push-ups, plyo push-ups, plyo lunges, where the explosive type of exercises. And
Yeah.
and after that, shoulder should not be ignored. Shoulder TheraBand activation should be done.
Right.
Shoulder exercises should be done.
Uh,
Then the most important thing is, you have to prepare the body to start playing on the court. It cannot be like, you have done this, take your racket and start hitting the ball. No, you have
Right.
to start doing at least some kind of the court movements, like, move sideways, lateral movements. For those who are playing on the clay court, slides, and then forward and back sprints, sideways, crossovers, all the movement patterns.
Right.
Uh, um, the other thing is, after that, then you start doing the specific hitting patterns and all those things. Like do like maybe 10 balls of forehands, 10 balls of backhands, and all those
Right.
things.
Right.
So I have a question here, sir. It's totally
Yes,
wrong
yes.
to use static stretching because current studies suggest that
You can you
suggest
explain?
that. Can you please explain on it?
Yeah.
Like there has been a debate always there has been a debate
Yes, of course.
can static stretching be done or not. Let me tell you, I do static stretching and I have not had any problems. There are studies which give there are studies which uh, suggest static stretching before the session starts. That's what I'm trying to explain the viewers. There is no harm in doing something, but again, like I said, if you have heard me in the course of explanation, I said mobility, then rolling and static stretching, followed by dynamics. So I'm actually
Right.
doing dynamics. I am moving the body. I'm not doing
Yeah.
a static stretch and starting
Right.
playing. I am doing mobility, rolling, muscle release, stretch, and then dynamics, and then explosives, then sport specific, and then I start moving. So it's like about 45 minutes process, honestly.
Right. And
It's about
static
45 minutes.
stretching is only not the whole body; those muscles which are
Yeah,
stiff.
yeah,
Right.
that's correct. That's correct.
Right. Not
So
static stretchings all over the body, but those muscles I think you stretch there where you for those muscles which are
only those muscles
are
which you
stiff.
feel stiff. Yeah,
Right.
feel stiff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. We don't mind.
Somebody who has got a stiff shoulder. I just want to ask that person who has put that question forward. Somebody who's
Yeah.
got a stiff shoulder, and you start doing what do you call whatever warm up routines we are following these days.
Right.
If I ask my player to kind of go and do a sleeper stretch or a slap stretch, I'm
Right.
sure that person understands what I'm trying to say. Um, is there any wrong in doing a sleeper stretch followed by a dynamic movement, followed by a TheraBand activation, and then start hitting the ball? It's absolutely
No.
fine,
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
It is
absolutely
very
fine.
much fine. Because you're just
So
trying to do static stretches. You're just trying to, stretch those muscles which are, you think it is little stiffer. If they are absolutely fine, you don't actually have to do it.
yeah, I'm sure a lot of people uh, watch
Yeah.
Australian
Sure,
Open
sure.
and all those things. If you
Right.
see, just before the Australian Open, when the players just before they get into the court, they are warming up in that alley.
Right.
Okay, so walkway. So what happens is you may have seen. I have seen Djokovic. I have seen Roger Federer. All the big names in tennis.
Right.
They do static stretching before getting onto the court, and they have been absolutely fantastic. They are legends.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes. So yeah, you're right, Mr. Raj. Evidence-based thing is really, really good, but all evidences do not have a conclusion. So
Absolutely.
you can always experiment.
Absolutely. And in these guys, and I think just like you mentioned, Rafa, Roger, and Novak, see, they have proven a fact that, late 90s and early 2000s, maybe the longevity of the player was restricted to say about 30, 35. But now these guys are, Roger is 38 now, 39.
39,
So,
yeah.
and these guys are 33 and they're
Let's
absolutely
talk about
fantastic.
our. Yeah, you are absolutely
And,
right, sir. Like
and these things are
Leander
continuing.
Paes.
Yes, of course. Our very own Leander.
Yeah, exactly.
He's still the same on court. I was just watching one of Leander's matches of 2006 US Open when he was 23, 1996 US Open against Andre Agassi, second round. Amazing. He's still the same. What I saw him maybe a couple of months ago in Pune.
Yeah. And it's
They
all
still
because
do those static settings. They haven't lost that routine. They still, they've added new stuff, but then old stuff still continue because they have proven results. I think it is very important that customization of what plan works for you as a player is very important.
And I would like to just mention here, the thing is, the whole process it goes as a cycle. It will
Right.
develop new things and it will always come back to old. If you
Right.
see that even the tennis style of playing,
Right.
the chip and
Yeah.
charge way of doing playing is now again back. It used to be way old technique of chip and
Yeah.
charge,
Moving to the net
serve
has
and volley.
again
But now
coming
you
back.
see a
Yeah.
lot of players move to the net, and
Yeah. It's an improvised version, you can say.
exactly, the base has been the same.
Yeah.
The foundation has been the same. The only thing is it's an improvised version of how
Yeah.
they serve and they go more fast. They're much faster, they are very
Right.
agile, they are very
Right.
powerful. Even during the movement they are able to produce so much force. And
Absolutely.
and somebody mentions and their basics are very good. You are absolutely right. Basics
Right.
you have to develop right from the beginning.
Right.
uh, yeah, so it's all what we inherit, what we learn, what we accept, what we do, what we are trying to achieve, what is the objective of doing this thing. And if you
Right.
have a good understanding about all these things, I think it makes a lot of difference. It makes not a lot of, it makes you a better player overall.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. So there's
yeah,
one more question, and we are getting into the last 5 minutes of our session. It says, "Good afternoon, sir. How to maintain and improve fitness during tournament? Should we do the normal fitness routine, or there should be some changes?"
this is a very interesting question. Whoever asked this question, really
Right.
good. Thank you for asking that question.
Uh,
Uh, Honestly, I do not have an answer. Number one. Number two, yes, I can give you an answer.
yeah.
Should I do fitness during the tournament? Yes, you should do fitness during the tournament.
Yeah.
Um, why you should do fitness during the tournament is because you have to keep your condition. Again,
Right.
what is tournament fitness? It's not like, if you're doing 120 kilos squat in the gym during your regular practice sessions, you are going to do 120 kilos during your tournament. No,
Uh-huh.
you have to cut down the load by at least 30 to 40%. That means you have to cut, say for
Right.
example, if you're lifting 100 kilos of squat in the gym, you should be doing about 60 kilos during the tournament. It's not that you shouldn't do, you
Yeah.
should do. And most of the tennis fitness is more like a tennis specific, tennis oriented type of drills you got to do. But my
Right.
question to the players will be here: how many of you do fitness during the tournaments? Number one, because you have a mental block that if I do fitness I will get tired and I might get injured. Number one, which is not
So would
true.
rather put it
Which is
in
not
the
true.
right words, sir, to just for all these to put it in the right words. It's not fitness in at the time of the tournament. It is conditioning at the time of tournament.
Yeah, yeah,
You just have to condition your body so that you are ready for next day, because
yes,
you have to give same amount of effort from day one to your final. So 5 days or 6 days, you have to make sure you give the same amount of conditioning. I mean, unless you condition your body for the next day, basically.
yeah, yeah. So yes, yes, you should be doing fitness, and what you said is absolutely right. Doing, maintaining the condition,
Right.
to be more specific, and the other thing is, traveling fitness. You have to adjust the times because most of the, at least in the junior circuit, I think they will be playing 2 matches, sometimes even 3 matches if they're playing doubles during the day.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
so if you are asking me a question like, I'm playing in the first round, I'm playing 3 matches, 2 singles and a doubles match. So should I do my fitness? Yeah, you should do your fitness, but what fitness you do is very important. So if you ask me, during that day, early in the morning, you should get up and go through your regular warm-up routines, and then maybe do some kind of a movement. Even if it is for half an hour, do a little bit of sprints, do lateral movements, do crossovers, do your movement patterns.
Right.
Do with some therabands. These
Right.
days therabands are the biggest thing in conditioning. So
Right. Right.
every player must have those therabands in their kit bags, and these will help them to condition themselves. So if you're using a resistance band again around your waist, and you're doing forward and backward movements, you're doing diagonal movements, you're doing lateral movements, that is fitness. Yes, that is not load. Okay,
Right.
you're conditioning yourself. The other thing, like if you are a pro and you're playing 1 match a day, 100% you should do what you are doing in your regular this thing.
Absolutely. And sir, I
Yeah.
think there is a misconception between fitness, fitness and conditioning. Just like, one of our one of them, they just mentioned muscle recovery is also important in tournament. Yes, muscle recovery is also important at the time of the tournament, but then fitness really doesn't mean doing your endurance, agility, and all. You're just like Viplav sir just mentioned, doing a lot of TheraBand exercises, and maybe doing a lot of mobility is also a part of that fitness regime, which
Yeah.
it really doesn't have to be running endurance for an hour or something, or 20 minutes,
Correct.
whatever. But
That's
yeah,
right. That's right.
fitness, yeah, that is one major misconception we have in Indian tennis at the moment.
That's absolutely correct. I mean,
Yeah,
fitness is a cumulative is a combination of all these things: strength, conditioning, speed, agility, and everything. And if you combine all these things together, that's when you are called fit. Okay,
right,
so these are components of fitness. So yeah, during the tournament you should be doing fitness, but you have to adjust time. I know in the junior circuit it becomes difficult because you never know what time you're going to play a match. I know people, I know certain tournaments where it goes on until late night. You never know, you are playing
right,
at 1 o'clock in the night.
right,
So you have to adjust your time. You have to be smart. And again,
right,
somebody like mentioned about muscle recovery. Muscle has to recover. Correct. Muscle doesn't just recover because you are not doing your fitness and you're playing 3 matches in a day. Muscle
right,
recovers when you do the right things. Muscle recovers when you do a good warm up. Muscle recovers when you do a good cool down. For whoever has asked me that question, I want to ask: do you stretch immediately after you finish your match? Number one.
right,
Number two, what do you do if you in the Indian circuit? I have seen players, as soon as they finish their match, only 1% or maybe less than that, they
right,
do their routines. They go back, off the court. They do their routines and then they do whatever it is.
right,
99.9% players, they find buddies to chat.
yeah,
In that, half of them remove their t-shirts and sit. Okay,
right,
they are not stretching, and they are not hydrating and refueling themselves during the match and after the match. I am not sure
right,
what they have done before the match.
right,
So all these things add to a muscle recovery. Muscle recovery is just not doing fitness during the tournaments.
right. Right. Then we have one last question, so we have to take this last question, and we're falling short of time. And it's from
No
our
problems.
friend Swaroop. He says, "What fitness do a player have to do during off season?" He's
Off
a
season is
cricketer,
more of,
so he's a cricket coach, and I think you can probably tell him in terms of cricket.
okay.
Yeah,
Off season is more of loading.
yeah,
Is more of loading and injury prevention. These are the two objectives.
right,
Uh, the most important thing is injury prevention. Like, off season may we definitely look at grinding the players,
right,
but at the same time they shouldn't be injured, because whether it is 6 weeks or 8 weeks of off season you have got, you have to start with about 60 to 70% load during the first week and then gradually increase, go 100%.
right,
There is something called as periodization. The periodization phase goes in different ways. Everybody has their own way of doing periodized programs.
right,
But initially it is like, start with a lesser load for first one week or 2 weeks. Then
right,
the next 3 weeks, if it is a 6 weeks program, I'm talking about a 6 weeks program.
right, right.
And the next
We have 1 minute
three
to go.
next 3 to 4 weeks, we have to give 100% load. They have to lift more than what they were doing. They have to run faster than what they were doing. They have to eat well. They have to sleep well. They have to recover well, everything. And the last 1 week should be tapering. And tapering means they are cutting down the load and you are giving them lesser load. And the training program should more be diverted towards the sports specific kind of training, rather than doing something really heavy and intense.
Right,
So this is
right,
usually the periodization for a 6 weeks program.
right. Right. So we are in the last 30 seconds, and thank you so much for the time. And surely we
It
are
is
going to
always a
have
pleasure.
other maybe few more sessions in the coming few days, and maybe on something just like specific, just like
Yeah.
we ensured like today.
Yeah, sure. I'll be
Yeah.
more than happy to do that. Not a problem at all.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the time, sir. See
And
you
thanks for
soon.
having me on
Stay
this
safe.
chat. Thanks so much. Yes, you
Yes, sir.
take care. Everybody stay home, stay safe, have fun, keep
Yeah.
fit.
Bye. Good day, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Same to you.